Okay, ready, Public Works, Mr. Prater?
I'd like to call to order the Public Works Committee. We do have a quorum, but Lyle Fulton and Mr. Martin are not present. Mr. Lyle is present. Wait, be seated. Before I start my committee meeting, I guess during my committee meeting, Ms. Jones, did we have any, did we receive any public comments that we need to discuss or go over?
Under Public Works,
None on Public Works. Thank you. Since the department heads are not allowed to come tonight, Mr. Mosso gave me two prepared statements to read from the two different department heads that I'm over. So first I'll start with Mr. Albert John's comments. It says, Mayor Mosso, I have two items to report to the council since our last committee meeting. The first item is that 3 pieces of equipment have had to be sent out for repair. The equipment consisted of 1 tractor and 2 bucket trucks. The other item I'd like to report to the council is that starting next week, we will begin spraying for mosquitoes. We will spray the entire city once a week, weather allowing. Thank you, Mr. Albert John, Public Works Director. Next one is from Mr. Gilbert Ozing, who is our street commissioner. He said painting curbs on Parkinson and Avenue G, dug out around 20 address ditches, removed 5 addresses, sidewalks, cut 25 plus trees, grinding 25 plus stumps, 15 plus stop signs replaced a several culvert for better drainage, build 5 catch basins, cut grass in our normal cutting right-of-ways, bagged leaves in shady oaks, cut and cleaned I-10, made 1,000 plus sandbags, and hopefully we won't need those, and washed out pipe at 20 plus addresses. And that's from Mr. Gilbert Ozing. Next up is Mr. Tim Mader, our city engineer.
I have no action items. I think you all have a copy of my report. Nobody should have to read my report out loud at a meeting. It's lengthy, but as usual, if you have any questions, you can ask me anytime between now and next Wednesday.
The chair recognizes Mr. Byron Wilder.
I'm asking a question on the street commission, we can't ask questions or nothing?
No, sir, the reason for the pandemic, that's why we have this report, and trying to be able to allow as many people as we can from the public to come in.
I understand that, sir, but the report is fine that Alderman Clint read, but if you're not giving us when, where, and how, you talking about 25 trees cut. That could be in his own backyard. At least give us the address where you cutting that or something, so we can follow up ourselves where they cutting that, though.
Okay.
That's all I ask, man. Just
Yes.
myself.
Yes, sir.
And I would have had a question as to why we keep getting these. I've gotten several work orders for replacing culverts or installing culverts, not replacing, but installing culverts. And I don't know why we're still getting those, but of course, Mr. Gilbert's not here to ask that question too. So I don't know where else to go with this. I guess the Public Works Committee will adjourn if there's no other comments or questions. Why were you? Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Stringfellow.
Thank you, Chair. If the department heads were here, I would want to ask them how the COVID affected their departments and how many layoffs they had in their departments and if they had any new hires in their departments. But since they are not here, we'll try to get those questions answered at a later date. Thank you.
I agree. I had several questions myself, but I guess maybe we can wait until next week and we can have a real meeting and discuss it. Hopefully, we'll be able to add some things to the agenda at that time. I apologize to everybody for coming tonight. I really thought we were going to have a constructive and good meeting tonight, but it doesn't look like it's going to happen. I'm sorry. I really am. And with that, the Public Works Committee rests.
All right, next is Utility Committee, Mr. Martin, who's not here, Mr. Reggie. Here is a report, Mr. Reggie. This is a report that was used by Mr. Creeder, wastewater.
Okay, Mr. Tim Crater, wastewater department, good afternoon. First, wanted to report from March 1st to May 31st, we had 424 LA1 call local requests. We had 82 work orders filled and 22 after-hours calls. Second, all pump stations are in operation. Generators have been checked and ready for operation with the possibility of a tropical storm on its way. Tomorrow morning, staff will meet to discuss the pending storm and make all necessary arrangements. Finally, we wish to thank the staff for hanging in there and getting the job done during this trying time. Thanks, Tim Crater. Mr. Mayor.
No action items, you have my utility report, with updates, and if you have any questions, you can ask me anytime.
Thank you.
You can come in this way. Tim's not here. They gave me this red.
Questions?
Mr. Martin, I apologize, I didn't know if you were going to make it on time.
That's not a problem.
I'll let Mr. Reggie read your report.
That's not a problem. You have been read already?
Yes, sir.
And Tim Mayer has already not had a report either, so.
Oh, I'm sorry. So, we need utility?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good.
Thank you, Chair. We just heard a report from Mr. Crater and Mr. Mayor, but Mr. Crater's not here tonight. We, had some questions for him, so you might want to look over his statement again. And I was going to ask how the COVID affected his department and if he had any layoffs or any new hires, but he's not here tonight. I don't think any department heads are here tonight, so, you know, of course, I had some questions. I think some of the other council members did as well, but I don't know if they were told not to be here or if they just decided not to come, but thank you.
Well, the question, that information,
Mike,
thank you. Kim, is it my understanding that you request this? When was the first time that you requested this?
Regarding layoffs
Yeah.
and probably the end of March.
Okay.
Or wait, when did they have them? I'll have to go back and look, but I'll get you a date.
Okay, well, that being said, until you find that date. Why wasn't she given the information?
What was it, what, I'm sorry.
Why was the information that was requested as insurance and personnel? She has the power to basically ask that question and given whatever answer there is. So if it was March or whatever, March, April, May, I'm just waiting for her to find the date so that way we can put the official date on record. I mean, the bottom line is this council can't move unless we get answers to questions. Because we're not privy to the day-to-day operations. And I think it's a travesty that we as a council, which represents, we have all parts of Crowley represented right here. And Mayor, I have to look at you with this because the question is asked. And from what I'm understanding, it wasn't given to her. We all chair certain committees. As utility chair, my questions are always for what's going on with the sewer plant or whatever. And a bombshell was laid on myself as well as the council at the same time. And as we say, that's another story for another day. But knowing, if I'm not mistaken, it was a moratorium put up on hiring. Am I correct in using that term?
I'm sorry.
A moratorium on hiring?
I don't remember that statement, but
In other words, you had the cease as a mayor, you put a resolution out, whether you, well, not a resolution, but a notice that the city of Crowley had put a freeze on hiring.
no, so that statement was not made.
Okay. I'm sorry,
No, so that statement was not made.
Mayor, I witnessed you on television
Okay.
saying, when the question was asked about what was going on in the city of Crowley, about,
And the city of Crowley, what I said is that we were going to be having some layoffs.
no, well, I beg to differ.
Okay.
I'll go back and, I'll call for the archive of the television.
Absolutely.
But it was my understanding that you laid off certain individuals.
Yes, sir.
Okay. You even went to the point of after the layoff was done, that you turned around and hired persons afterwards. Is that a correct statement?
Okay, first of all, we are moving off course of this agenda. We are moving off course of this agenda, but just to answer your question, that is in the Larson Act, Mr. Martin, I think you know that. The Larson Act has nothing to do with council members as far as hiring and firing, and it is privy to the mayor only to review people who have been laid off, people who were let go or disciplined. And I can get that copy for each and every one of you at the very next possible hour. But at this time, I think we need to move on to the next part of our agenda.
So basically, the question that you're saying is, you refuse to give that information?
No, sir, I did not say that.
Well, I'm just asking because you refuse to give to them.
No, sir, I did not say that. I said that it is in the Larson Act.
Oh, well, I know the Larson Act.
Yes, sir.
I do know the Larson Act.
Okay, and my colleague suggests that we move on to the very next item, which is on the agenda. Thank you.
Did we call in the department heads?
I read the statement.
That was it?
That was it. That's the mayor too.
about Tim Crowley, is he here?
No, nobody, they weren't allowed to come. No
The reason-
no department head.
The reason why the department's head are not here was in safety for them because of the pandemic. We were trying to allow more people in public to come and sit in here, rather than having a virtual meeting. So that is the reason why I have asked the department heads to prepare a statement, just like they would be saying it, to give that statement. And they did, and now you have it.
So basically, and I'm gonna stick to the utility committee. I can't ask the person that's in charge of the day-to-day operation, what's going on and the main question is, from what I'm understanding, that the person that was hired was through utility. That's why my question to you was germane at the time. Because my understanding is, and I just want clarification on it. One of the persons that you hired came into under my umbrella, which is the utility committee, after certain people were laid off. I'm not leading away from the facts. I'm just getting evidence to the facts. Okay, and that's the question I asked you.
And the question that you just asked, Mr. Martin, was that you would want to be able to ask that gentleman a question. He is not here at his current time to answer any questions for you, but you're more than welcome to ask him after this meeting or tomorrow morning, whenever you would like.
If I ask him tomorrow morning after this meeting, it's not an official question.
It can be official at any time you'd like it to be.
No.
Yes, sir, you can ask for a public
No,
request
sir,
anytime.
no, sir, we're not talking about that. The fact of the matter is, from the time that I first ran for this office in Assuming, every meeting, we had department heads here to answer questions that only they could answer, okay? So now you're telling me that by your orders, no department head is here.
For their safety. For
Their
their
safety.
safety, yes, sir, for their safety, that is what we ordered.
If I'm here, you here, and everybody else is here, the law states 50% right now. That's the governor's,
No, sir, it does not. The law states 25%. It will state 50% on Friday, yes, sir.
well, even 25%. I know this is not 25%.
Well, I understand that, but it's not.
Mayor, with all due respect to you and everything, and I'm gonna say this to all my council members, the first person that should have been here should have been those department heads. Before anybody walked through that door, and the council should have been from that point on. Now, with that being said, well, you have taken away my right as a council person and the chair of a committee to find answers. And you're hiding behind a situation here that don't even make any sense to me. So what I'm gonna do is this. Everybody asked me, well, Steph, why were you into the borrow meeting? Because I consider that meeting a non-meeting. If you cannot have the public here to witness what's going on there, you are in violation of the open meeting law. Now, you're hiding behind something that the governor put in place, but the governor, quote unquote, left that to the discretion of the individual municipalities.
No, sir, I disagree with you. I'm not hiding anything. We gave you all a full report of what they are giving their report on in their department. Now, I'm gonna ask you again to move on.
Okay, I'm just gonna read what they say right here.
Go ahead.
The purpose of said meeting will be to consider Tim Mayor's wastewater report, Tim Crater's wastewater report. Well, that's Tim Crater. Tim made the city engineering report. Well, Tim couldn't make it, but he sent something in his place. And action items, none. I look up and down to the committee, and like I said, I don't want to make this a foregone conclusion, because I myself, in reference to everything that's being said here today, as the leader of what we call the 40-hour workforce, which you are, this organization as a council have to be given materials that we can govern by. We cannot govern by a piece of paper that says their name and we ask them for the report. It's a travel to everybody out here because I'm pretty sure they want to know what's going on as well. So with that being said, and this is just me, I don't know how the rest of this council feels, but I will not take part in this meeting for the simple reason materials that are listed on the agenda, and it's on the agenda, Jim Crater, wastewater superintendent report. And by your words to yourself and to everyone here, you kept him away for safety. His report doesn't have to be quote unquote in person, it could have been on the factual sheet. Okay? That has not taken place.
Of the sheet, of the copy, that is Mr. Crater's report.
That's Mr. Crater, that's correct.
Yes, sir.
Okay? Okay? All right, it's been read.
That's
Okay,
correct.
Kim.
Thank you, Chair. I know Ms. Julie's taking attendance. If I can ask her how many people we have? 25, okay, and we're allowed 40 people in here. Is there any way we can call some of the department heads and have them come?
No, sir. Excuse me, I'm sorry, no ma'am. Not right at the moment.
Thank you, Chair.
Okay, next.
I'd like to apologize to Ms. Jones because in the spirit of safety, I know she has an elderly mother that is in your care, and if anybody shouldn't be here, it should be you. So I want to apologize because it seems like you were overlooked in all these safety measures. So I sincerely apologize to you on behalf of the whole council that you would have to be here and department heads wouldn't have to be here. I think that's utterly not fair.
Well, and I agree with you 100%, but once again, this report that was read, I have questions for Mr. Crater. Okay, I have questions for him, but he's not here to answer. So, why am I here?
Okay.
So that being said, I'll go ahead and recess, and with all due respect to each and every one of you here, one thing I will not do is be a part of something here that facts cannot get out to the citizens of Crowley of what's going on, because I know we have questions relating to just about everything and anything. And if there's nobody to answer those questions, well, apparently you don't want to answer. With that, I'll recess.
Mr. Recreation Department, Mr. Primo.
Okay, Recreation Department convenes. I'll first read Recreation Director Peter Kirsch report. Due to the COVID-19 pandemic, the Mill Street facility has been closed since March 16, 2020 for public safety concerns and in accordance to the Governor Edwards proclamation. I have been working with guidance from the mayor and in conjunction with the Recreation Chair to coordinate a condensed version of a season and dates for a season for the children of Crowley. We are currently working on guidelines that will be set forth by the governor to ensure the safety of our children moving into phase 2. This will allow us to open the fields and tennis courts and allow people an opportunity to get back to enjoying our recreation facility. These dates will be announced shortly. Now, I do have a couple letters from the public that I will read. The first one is from Miss April Mixon. Mr. Mayor and City Council, I would like to ask a question in reference to the Recreation Committee agenda under reports, item 1, Peter Kirsch's Recreation Director's report. While the governor has said amusement parks and playgrounds should remain closed, he has allowed non-contact sports to begin. Many facilities have opened with specific guidelines and have been open for at least 2 weeks. Then there are a list of the guidelines. She goes on to say, I would like this to be read and responded to during tonight's committee meeting. The next letter is from Mr. Tracy Young.
Point of order, Mr. Chair. Point of order.
Yes, Mr. Martin?
You just read a statement from Mr. Kirsch?
Yes.
Okay. Where's Mr. Kirsch?
I can't answer that. All I have is his report. I think the mayor had answered that.
Yes, sir, I'm not understanding what your point of order is, but that is under the same department head guideline that I was asked for these gentlemen to do, please. Thank you.
Mr. Prater?
And you said that, but you didn't say exactly what was in her letter. I don't think, unless I missed it.
That was basically the letter. The rest of it was just guidelines from the governor.
If I may, point of order once again, anytime a letter is brought to this council, it should be read in full. Whether it's those, it may be monotonous to some, but it's new material to some.
Actually, we'll do better than that. Ms. Nixon, you're more than welcome to come up now.
The question was actually at the bottom of the question was at the bottom after the guidelines. It was that if we, first, yes, can we open it, which I know that was discussed today, reopening, but even if we couldn't reopen, was there a way to unlock the fields for teams that do choose to play elsewhere to at least have a place of practice? Because a lot of the kids that play ball in Crowley, even if they don't play with the rec, still play ball and the fields have been locked due to practices. So that was it.
Thank you, Ms. Nixon. Mr. Jones, who is
Okay, I will read Mr. Young's letter.
Microphone.
Okay, I will now read Mr. Young's letter. I would like to discuss why the baseball season at the Recreation Department has not been opened up yet. Everything else has opened up for the most part, and by mid-June, everything else should be in phase 3. Scott Recreation is opening up. There should be no reason that Crowley cannot open up as well. With kids out of school for an extended period of time, they will need something to do. Please consider this action immediately. This is not only a recreation issue, this is a revenue and finance issue, as many parents buy bats, gloves, socks, belts, shoes, bags, and other items needed for the kids to play baseball. I would like to discuss this in Recreation Committee. Thanks in advance, Tracy Young. Yes, Ms. Stringfellow?
Thank you, Chair. Since we, as a council, have not met in person since the middle of March, we would not have those answers. So, Mayor, would you enlighten these two citizens and the council as to their questions? Will they be able to practice, and are we going to have a baseball season?
Yes, we are. That was in Peter's statement as well. And we just don't have the pinpointed dates exactly. And yes, we're going to have what we're calling a condensed season. And to be able to allow our children, he is going to open up the registration again, and where we can see where we're at, how many kids we have, even if it's big enough to even have a season in the leagues that represent that number. So we had a little meeting today with the high schools, and the high schools are going to begin, I think, Monday. The high schools are going to begin practicing at Miller Stadium, and it was all been good thing.
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Yes.
I did have a citizen that had asked me about the gliding trail on tennis courts. Do you have a report about those?
Yes, ma'am.
They'll be the same?
Yes,
They'll be
ma'am.
open?
Yes, ma'am. I think it's open tomorrow.
It's open tomorrow?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Also, I can give you a slight timeline on the baseball. The registration will be reopened hopefully for a couple weeks. Then the teams will be able to practice a couple weeks, and then hopefully we'll have about a 4-week season. So that's what he's trying to get all together right now.
And just wanted to let everyone know too, there is going to be a very minimal concession stand for our Crowley Recreation Department children for the summer league.
Mr. Crater?
Yes, I want to emphasize, Ms. Mixon did a very, very detailed email to the mayor and copied myself on it, and you may want to pass that on to Mr. Kirsch, because she did a lot of homework on this thing, and she has facility guideline mitigation measures in there. She has several different websites to go to, and if he needs some guidance in how to do this and what to do, she did a lot of homework for him. He doesn't have to go and do it. If you would, or I could, or maybe the mayor could pass on her entire email, I think it would be helpful to Mr. Kirsch.
I'll make sure he gets a copy of it.
Thank you.
Anyone? Anyone else? Okay, if not, I recess.
Zoning and annexation, Mr. Fogelman?
Thank you, Mayor. All members of zoning and annexation present. Mr. Mayor, I know you submitted your report. I didn't see any action items. Do you have any for? No. Thank you, sir. I have one action item, and I'm just realizing I thought I'd made copies for everyone, but I didn't. I apologize. So I'm going to kind of give them to the committee members, and then we'll share. There's been a lot of discussion about please don't charge my committee for this. There's been a lot of discussion with the issues involving the gateway overlay districts that have been established in Crowley. And there's also been a lot of discussion on what we can do to maybe try to improve what we have for the specific districts that are at issue. And there have been attempts to have meetings. Mr. Reagan's health kind of impeded that process. I would very much like to have him with the committee when we meet. Then this COVID thing. And during the meantime, there's an issue that arose that if we can at least get the ball rolling in this regard, what you're looking at is the South Crowley, I think it's District 4, whatever the exact number is. There's a request, and it's been considered that we reduce the northern boundary line and pull it down to Cedar Street, which Cedar Street is the corner that the new Family Dollar store sits on. Is that correct? Yes. And across the street is a brick house and then the car wash, and then the restaurant, Foreman's Restaurant. It's been discussed that it's been requested and looked at to remove the northern portion, which is coming off of the overpass, and the minute you're coming off the overpass, on the left, we've got a mechanic shop that's almost too large for this space. And then next to that is a home, and then where Hayes Carpet used to be, and that's actually what has brought this to attention, is that building. Then there's a house, and then there's the storage facility, and then the Family Dollar. Across the street, we would be lifting the restriction off of what is the restaurant, and then further north of that is where we have some houses that have been torn down. I wish that man would go clean that lot. I mean, he bought this 6 months ago, and it's still, somebody knocked down a house and left everything there. But anyway, the Hayes Carpet property is desiring to be bought by some guys that want to open a body shop and a mechanic kind of auto parts facility, which in my personal opinion is extremely conducive to that district in Crowley. And rather than abolish the complete designated area, I think we could potentially safely remove that northern portion, and then when we have time to get together to modify what the prohibitions would be to make it more conducive to the area, what it is traditionally served, and to help the city in that regard. And so I would like to ask that the committee members this evening, if we could set forth a motion where we have to go to the planning commission with this first. And so what we would do is we would set forth a motion where we would authorize the mayor to proceed to the planning commission in an effort to ask for their review on this. And my hope is to really supplement this a little further. It's my understanding the planning commission is not meeting this month, but following our meeting next week, we could maybe have a quick special meeting now that things are beginning to lift with this COVID, and we could even carry this a little further for the western and southern districts and present the whole issue to the planning commission when the time would come.
Your copy got cut off. What is it now? Is it resident? I know it's an R, but is it an R1, 2, 3? What is it now?
It's C3.
An R, right?
That's not the district.
Okay.
You have a bad copy apparently. Yeah, it's C. This district completely falls within C3. Stephen, I'm sorry.
Mr. Chair, I would like to make that motion to send it to the planning commission.
Sammy, your second. Any further discussion on this? What's that? Step.
Okay, just for clarification. We just eliminating the gateway provisions, is that what we're doing?
We are removing the property, the gray area above the yellow line from the gateway district. We are putting the northern boundary of the gateway district in South Crowley at Cedar Street. We're taking this out. It's a restaurant, this is not in it, and this is the property that's potentially up for development. That the way the district, the way the prohibitions are right now, that mechanic shop's grandfathered in, but the Hayes carpet store that now wants to become a body shop and a auto parts kind of accessories, they cannot. And I just don't see where we're helping our community by prohibiting things that have typically been in that area.
Well, I would tell you this right here, I mean, I'm in favor of whatever's best for the city. But if I'm not mistaken, this request will probably have to be sent to the Department of Justice as well.
Not with this, no, not with this.
I beg to differ because basically, you're telling people from Cedar Street heading south, and I hope I'm doing it right, is it south or not?
South.
South. That they won't have a say in as far as what.
They don't have it now. We got 4 districts that have been created in Crowley, and nobody can say anything about it now.
Correct. But there'll be someone to challenge the fact that they may want to keep, I'm just saying, just to be on the safe side, I think this needs to be either questioned through legal, because that's basically taking away some people's rights that has already been incorporated to it. They have a right to not allow certain businesses in. Am I right in saying that?
There's certain prohibitions of business.
Correct. Okay. It may be a situation where they feel that they won't have a say if someone decides to put something that was banned there. All of a sudden now they come up and say, well, I can do it. And the amendment portion come in, not my backyard. I'm just thinking, just be on the safe side. Because I know anytime you either enlarge or reduce a boundary for anything, the Department of Justice usually have a say. Just FYI.
Well,
I'm hoping that they don't.
That I think you might be confusing that with the redistricting of the voting law.
Well, but when you think about it, it is taking away their vote to stop something to be in.
There's no vote to be had here.
I'm just, thank you.
Mr. Marshall, Mayor, Richard?
Hi guys, I'm Tracy Young. So, I traveled right there, and I just, and I don't want to stop your vote, but I'd like to drive by there. And I'm not saying anything disparaging against the mechanic shop, but if you pass by there are cars everywhere. On the side of the highway, down that little dead end, and so, but I know y'all had issues with other businesses by the railroad tracks, and this is going on as well. So, just maybe FYI, just kind of take a look at it. I'm not trying to prevent a business coming in, I don't even know who it is. I'm just trying to say, hey, you might want to take a look first.
Just for clarity, while we're talking about this, I fully respect what Tracy, I fully respect what Tracy just said, but that really has no bearing on what we do here today, because he's already there. He's already grandfathered in. He existed at that location before this was even created. So the only enforcement that can be had as regards to him right now is that he stays off the road. That's it. And I'm not trying to make excuses for him, Tracy, but that's what we got.
And also, when was the overlay district created?
I don't know, we will ask that. It's been a few, yeah,
In a few years,
quite a while.
10, 15 years?
And it's been sleeping. It's just been sleeping.
So he's not grandfathered in.
Well, I don't know about all that, but, you know, that's, I don't know. Any other comments? Yep.
Thank you, Chair. What brought this about?
I'm sorry,
What brought this about?
what's all this about?
Yeah,
What's
why
bringing this?
Right.
The property that is for sale that cannot be purchased for the intended use of an interested buyer. Right next door to the mechanic, well, the mechanic shop, brick house, then A's Park. Okay. Which we need to redefine these districts anyway, in some measure. And this has just beat us to the punch. And actually, in speaking with Mr. Reagan, who I have spoken with a number of times, he's the one that suggested we do this in an effort to accommodate this situation right now, which then gives us time to maybe improve and lessen some of the restrictions in certain areas of town. Anybody else? Okay, committee members, all in favor of sending the request to the mayor to go forward to the planning commission?
Yay.
Anybody opposed? Motion carries, thank you. And actually, I have nothing else for this committee, so we will recess.
Thank you. Public safety, Mr. Moore.
Thank you, Mayor. Call to order the Public Safety Committee meeting. All members are present and have a quorum. Again, do we have any questions from the public, Ms. Jones? No. Okay. Mayor, I have a question regarding the department heads who were unable to come today. Curious why these reports from the department heads were given to us at 2:41 p.m. and 3:21 p.m. today, when our committee agendas were required to be submitted last Thursday at 3 p.m. Why did we get some information from the department heads that could not be present? That way we can properly ask questions or have things, additional information maybe provided by them. The timeline seems like we were well in advance of the meeting, and they were notified just this afternoon that after 2:41 p.m.
Okay, that brings up, that's a very good point. And it is very much considered, and I promise you it'll happen way earlier than it did.
Thank you. We're going to reports. We have Chief Broussard present today, and before you report, Chief.
Good afternoon to everyone. I must apologize that I do not have a number that I normally do of calls that we've had for the month. I did not have an opportunity to do such. We've been working on a few different things. Number one, we just had a meeting at 3 o'clock where with regards to the situations that have happened throughout our country lately, a group has been organized and is meeting to plan a marching rally on Saturday, June 13th, 2020 at 10 a.m. We are calling it One Heart, One Mind, One Crowley, where it will involve everyone in the city coming together. What we're basically looking at is meeting, some of the group will meet at St. Teresa's Park, some of the group will meet at Levy Park, but come together on Parkerson on this Saturday morning at 10 o'clock, marching to the courthouse lawn, and with the permission of the police jury, have a small program there with that in mind. As I said, I apologize, I do not have numbers for this month. We are preparing, of course, for the tropical storm, which we are looking probably will make landfall, I think, Monday morning about 1 a.m. was the last that I got. I do have to admit, I am saddened to say we will probably lose 2, possibly 3 officers of our present force. A couple of them to Lafayette. The third one, I'm not quite sure yet. I know one is just waiting on a test score. One is in the process of the hiring process. And the third, I think it's just begun.
Thank you, Chair. Chief, how has the COVID pandemic affected your department, and do you have any layoffs or just overall, how has it affected?
Well, when we were, actually, I have a wonderful administrative team, and of course, Alderman Core joined us in that. When we were told that we had to be cut 7 to 10% of our remaining budget, which would have been equaling out to about $130,000 of the remaining budget, we sat down and we started figuring out what we could possibly do and what we could possibly cut, or freeze. I will not say cut, freeze at the present time. So we started looking at things, and again, with my administrative team of the 4 captains and Alderman Core and myself, we froze Garcia, we froze overtime, we froze the TED program, we froze repairs and maintenance, well, some repairs and maintenance unless absolutely needed. We cut down on patrols to save on gas. We basically took everything we possibly could. Now, of course, we still had 2 positions open. We still had a patrolman slot that was not filled and a records clerk slot that was not filled. But placing all of that into all the things we were able to not cut or to not lay off personnel. And again, I say it's frozen because I'm awaiting a letter from the Attorney General's office with some clarifications and specifications on that.
Mr. Craig.
Chief, do you think that these cuts contributed to the 2 to 3 officers leaving?
I cannot say positively, but I would say that it had a great flowing towards it. Many of them were saying, okay, we don't know what's going on, and there's been a lot of issues still with paychecks, and from what I'm understanding from them, you know, their paychecks not being the same in salary, and then a couple of them just said, look, Chief, I love this city, I love this department, I just can't stay. And it's unfortunate, and I'm not gonna stand. One in particular was an officer who's been with us, a K-9 officer, who just had a young child, and said, Chief, I got a supply for my family, and I don't know what to do. And that's his words, not mine.
Mayor? Yes, sir, thank you. Chief, in all respect, I did not tell him to cut his budget 7 to 10. I requested a 7 to 10% cut. And just to let everyone know, I cannot make him or tell him or get him to do it because the chief controls his own budget at the police department. And he is in full control of his budget, and full control of his department. I cannot make him do anything. So in all respect, I would just clarify that. This is a request.
Mayor, were you satisfied with the adjustments that he made within his budget?
I didn't see any.
So you're unaware that anything was done in the police department?
No, sir. I am unaware.
Thank you, Chairman. Chief, how did I understand we changed insurance companies in the city of Crowley. How did that affect your employees?
Well, it was definitely something that hit us all by surprise, and a lot of the officers were discontented. One dispatcher I know wound up having to pay like $200 for her insulin, needed medication, at which time it wasn't. I know myself, having filled some medication, I had to pay. Now, understand that may have been some glitches, but that does play a part, for when you are making a big salary, it's still a hit, but when you're making what some of these officers are making, it's a huge hit to them, especially this particular dispatcher. I mean, dispatchers make, I don't want to give a number and be wrong, but it's less than $20,000 a year. So of course, having to pay $200 a pop for insulin. My fear is what's going to take place later.
But I understand that situation is cleared up though, am I correct?
I believe so. I think it was a glitch from what I understood that may have been corrected as far as medication.
Okay. Thank you, Chief.
Chief, do we have a basis why the officers are leaving for Lafayette is wherever they are seeking other employment?
Well, and I will say this, number one, it's like better benefits, more stability, and not department-wise, but city-wise. They said, Chief, we don't know, and I said, I'm doing everything possible to not, but, they said, Chief, I've got this opportunity that I got to follow. Please, my captains who are with me, if I'm saying something wrong, please let me know.
And as you know, I do spend a lot of time with officers.
Yes.
And they have expressed to me that the pay is just not sufficient. You have sergeants currently making less than $800 for a 2-week period, or slightly over. They are very concerned about their ability to stay in the city.
Well, and I'll say this, for example, probably the person you're talking about is of a sergeant rank, and I know that they do take out the family insurance. I recognize that, but that family insurance is now getting increased, almost $200 to $250 a paycheck, if I'm correct, and I'm trying to remember because I'm trying to remember my own paycheck, my own pay stub as well. So he basically, as a sergeant, is now taking home approximately $700 every 2 weeks with the insurance. So. Okay. And I'm just being told by the captain, the starting pay here is $23,000. That is prior to the academy. And starting pay in Lafayette is $40,000. I understand again, recognizing and stating that Lafayette, of course, has a bigger tax base than we do. They have more businesses. They are more hub of activity. So, of course, they have more income. But
it's certainly something that we need to look into within the near future to address these issues, because we certainly can't afford to lose any officers with the current status of our city's crime rate and problems that we're facing.
well, and when you consider again, you have approximately, that's when everyone, if we are full up, and I say this many, many times, if we're full up, we should have at least 5 officers on shift. We have not had that for quite a long time. So that would mean 25 people on patrol for a city of approximately 14,000. I think if you look at numbers from other communities, other municipalities, they have many more officers for that particular number of population.
It's not going to confirm that by seeing some of those patrol officers sitting at the dispatcher's desk when that person is on sick, and it's not good.
No, in fact, it's become so short, I've even sat at the dispatch desk and assisted. Some of the captains have as well. we've gone out on calls to assist because of the shortages.
Alderman Wilbridge. Chief,
Yes, sir.
you saying with the next week, we can have, we should have these 5 slots open. That need to be filled. And do y'all keep, I don't know what they do, resumes, applications, applying for?
We do, and actually, when someone does come apply, Alderman, normally we will schedule an interview, usually the captains take care of that. They will bring it to me with a recommendation. If the recommendation is favorable, we will start the process by first sending them for a psychological evaluation. Many times, that's where we find the issues because, our insurers, our city insurers have told us if they are a moderate to high risk or high risk, that we face issues with employment. So that's the first thing that we do now. Once that comes back, if that's good, then we send them through the city, Human Resources Director to the clinic to get their physicals and their blood screen.
I understand, sir. I mean, everything you say is true, and I understand it. I'm just wanting the council to know that we might be looking at 5 slots that's not filled. And like you said, you barely got 3 people on the ship or whatever. And it's just how serious the issue is that we need to try to figure out this pretty quick. And then, I don't know, like I said, I also talk to a lot of chiefs, range troopers and stuff like that, and the police department and the sheriff and stuff like that, so I try to get information from around the cities around us. We're trying to make intelligence decisions for Crowley. And that's all I'm saying. Maybe we need to talk to them. Not saying you do. I'm just talking about us as a general.
Mm-hmm.
Need to find out what the other cities around here doing and adapt to some situation that could enhance Crowley or what we're doing. That's all I'm saying, sir. And I agree with you, sir. You said everything right, intelligent, decent, in order. So,
Thank you, sir.
I mean, I agree with you. I just want the council to know
Yes, sir.
what's really ahead of us, what we need to find out. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Alderman Primo.
Chief, did you say 3 people were leaving or 5?
Actually, we have 2 open slots that I have not
Okay, so
filled
that's
yet.
where it is, a
Right,
total of
yes.
5.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Smith, if I remember correctly, you're working off a budget this year that actually did have an increase, correct?
The council increased it for 10, but actually it's taken 110%.
The budget was increased by 2%, if I remember correctly. Okay. I'm just asking, that is correct, okay? So nothing has changed. Any cuts come from you because once we appropriate those funds, only you can spend them. Correct?
Yes,
Okay.
according to what I've read in the Larson Act, yes.
All right, so we started out this fiscal year with you getting an increase, but yet now everything's falling apart, supposedly, and you control the budget. I don't understand where the problem is. The problem isn't with the council. The problem isn't with the money appropriated, because we appropriated with the budget, which you have to live off of for a year. You made a very stern point, our very first meeting. I don't know if you remember that. Come to me and say, I want you to know, Jeff, the council, the same people that were now on all aboard was against. They said, want them to know, they can't tell me how to spend my money. I said, that's right, Chief, but the council does tell you how much you have to spend. So each fiscal year, just as we did last year, we appropriated, I think it's $3.1 million with a 2% increase. We can't tell you how to spend that. I want people to understand that. So whatever problems it's having, if we need to work with what we have and what we've been appropriated with, I know I have to work within my budget. I can't overspend my account. I have no place to go to if I overspend my budget. Nobody's gonna appropriate me any more money.
And there is no overspending. Because we are still below.
Well, that's great. And then, so, we don't have a problem then.
Not with the department,
Okay.
not with the officers and the administration of the Crowley Police Department.
Chief, the 7 to 10% reduction requested, you've implemented those measures?
I have frozen some funds. My captains maybe, and I don't want to answer wrong on that because I will agree to disagree. That the mayor says he requested, I may have heard it differently, I'll say it that way. So I did freeze some things until some clarification was made, because I know with the governor's order and the emergency declaration, there were certain things that went through and we weren't quite sure what was going on. We were in uncharted territory.
Correct, and the traffic enforcement detail, those funds were basically frozen
Yes,
to avoid the spending. However, that affected the officers because they were depending on that as additional revenue because it was overtime pay.
somewhat, yes.
That we had provided, so there was an effect on your officers.
There was. And again, that was to prevent what had happened in some of the other departments of the city, laying off people who depended on this for their livelihood.
Yes, thank you. Clint?
So Chief, what I've heard a couple of times here is that you really don't need to cut your budget. I mean, I thank you for what you did, and we were all pretty concerned about how the revenue was gonna turn out, but preliminary numbers that I've been given and I've looked at, it's not gonna be quite as bad as we thought it was gonna be. So I would say that, thank you for cutting and doing what you did, but I see no reason why you can't get back up and do what you need to do and try and retain some of these officers, because I know what it's all about, and these guys need some help. I mean, we can't afford to, especially in these times, we can't afford to lose any more officers and be any more short-staffed than what we are, because when I rode, I know one of the officers was dispatcher, like Brad was saying, and we only had 2 others, and we had to go on a high-speed chase out of town. That left one, that was Brad and another guy in town. So we only had 1 officer in town taking care of it. That's ridiculous, that's crazy. So guess what? You know, do what you have to do. I think you have our back, and if you don't have to cut $130,000 stream budget, and things aren't looking that dim and dismal, until we get some good numbers, I would say that some realistic numbers, go for it.
Well, and that was part of the issue. I was waiting on realistic numbers and realistic facts as to, what was projected. I didn't have any of that, and I wanted to make an informed, conscious decision because I knew it affected people's lives.
Alderman Martin. Ladies and gentlemen, I think we're missing the point here. It's not that what was asked for wasn't given. At the time, it was enough to be sufficed. It's not enough now. One of the main calls I'm getting all from the state is, where do we find PPEs and where do we find masks? At one time, PPEs, we have a nurse in, doctor's office. Hell, I used to find masks for 10 cents a piece. Now it costs me $5 for the same mask. Mr. Chair of Finances, you made the statement that, we gave you what you asked for. Well, at the time, that's what he had needed. Now, as far as that 7.5, I'm sorry?
I didn't say he gave what he asked for, because there's no way we're gonna be able to afford to give him what he would ask for.
I restate my statement. We gave him what we could. How about that? Now you're questioning whether he's spending it in the right way. The Larson Act provides stipulations. This council cannot tell, the mayor cannot tell this elected chief how to spend his budget. This council, this mayor cannot make him, we have a right to ask him to reduce 7.5%, 5.5%, or even 1%. The only thing this council has the power to do when the next budget comes about, that we scrutinize the budget to see whether we're on the right track. Apparently, before this epidemic came about, things were going good. Now you go, the price of beef and triple. And we're asking these people to put their lives on the line. There ain't nothing, and I'm gonna say it like it is. There's only two committees that's, I wanna say, important to life instruction and entities involved in those committees. That's insurance and personnel and public safety. Because the two combine the same track. I don't understand the fact that you have a budget, and that's all it is, a budget. It's not a true budget, because it'll never be a true budget. Unless I ask for 100,000, you give me $1 million. But right now, the chief is telling you, and I know he's trying to be discreet, but chief, I'm not a discreet person, I tell you like the hell it is. He's telling us that unless he's not asking us to help him. He's asking us to help keep his force intact. And I'm pretty sure when the fire chief come up here, he's gonna have the same scenario. Sometimes you just gotta bend the straw, even though it was straight all that time. And if you know something about when you bend a straight straw, what it does, it keeps, correct? Cuts off circulation. So what they did, they bended the straw with a ripple, and you can bend it like you want. Bend it up, bend it down, and it works. The police department right now, I listen to the mayors and the chiefs of Scott, I listen to Doosan, I listen to, like Byron said, you got to get outside the box sometimes and listen to what's going on in the community. Not one of them, and that's just my opinion and my hearing and my sight, every time one of them got on the microphone and said how much they're losing. Tax base is losing people to the fact that I don't blame them leaving from Crowley and going to line to get it. Because numbers don't lie. And the chief just shocked me when you said 22 to 23,000 for that particular rank compared to 40,000. He did use the term, the tax base, which we understand, and I appreciate him for leveling out the field. He didn't say that if church, if Lafayette can do it, Crowley can do it, he used those words. You understand the tax base. But we all know, the only thing going down right now is price of gas. That's the only thing. And this creeping back up. You got stores right now, the only one that's making money in quote unquote is the big box. They're making money. Because small mom and pop dealerships or what have you is being second ranked. Before I sell you 50, I gotta sell them 10,000. Okay? The chief is not asking for a way to quote unquote manipulate his budget. He's asking for help to increase his budget, to hold on to what we have. Okay? Cannibalism in the public safety is bad. It is bad. We understand that the layoffs from the fire department, we may lose our ranking, our number 2 ranking. Then everybody pays. We as a body right now have the power to keep everybody intact. Sometimes it hurts, but guess what? I'd rather pay for fire and police protection, knowing that down the line I might have to back off on something else, from having a ditch cleaned or whatever it may be, and have to basically come to a conclusion of how we're going to get that ditch cleaned. And I'm pretty sure the fire department, the police department, we ask young fellas, we fall in charge of public works, can come, sure y'all can help us clean these ditches. It's public safety. So if the ditches flood, they'll be the ones who go get people outside the houses. So, Chief, I'm not trying to analyze what you're saying, I'm trying to make you facts here. that our fire and police department needs to be checked, because right now we need them more than ever. You see what's going on with television. You see what's going on. We about to have we don't know if that's gonna be cat 1, cat 2, we don't know what it's gonna be, but it's heading this way. We got an epidemic out there. We got people, God bless our workers, all due respect to you, a lot of problems. But guess what? When they go arrest somebody, they don't have time to ask them, hey man, are you positive or you not? Okay? When they leave, they going home. They gotta bring that into the squad cars or the fire engine or what have you. And it's there. Then all of a sudden, you got half of your police force out, or half of your fire force out with the virus. Then you got the overtime. So what I'm saying is this: before we go time and a half, let's try and give them a little bit more where they can see us working with them. Don't shut the door, because if you shut the door, guess what? Sometimes you lose the key. Okay? And hell, in my case, I've been many times, I would change the damn locks. Make sure the door don't be open again. So that's all I'm saying, and in response to the chair of finance, I understand what you're saying. I agree with you 100%, that the budget is the budget. But he's asking for a little consideration to try and keep them here. You got a few slots, the reason why they open, because nobody's there to fill them. So if you take away the ones that's there, who do you call? You can't call the sheriff department. They got so many patrols out, they killed the whole sheriff, the whole parish. State police come on mutual aid call, but I'm pretty sure you're gonna call the state police, oh man, we got a guy that's drunk on the corner, can you come pick him up? Okay? So all I'm saying is this: before we get into any type of retaliation on fire or police department for quote unquote not spending their money wisely, because I don't think there's anything to object to anybody in anything here. Let's try and find a few dollars. Because the economy is going to come back. I don't know how good it's going to come back. But we have two major box stores in the city of Crowley. God bless them. Talking about Super One and Walmart. Every time you turn around, there's a new everything everybody got here. Okay? So let it be as it is. Think with your head and your heart. Don't just think with your head. Thank you.
Thank you, Steph. Alderman Strickland,
Thank you, Chair, and I would just like to state as well, their insurance change had a large, their salaries are set by our budget, but then changing their insurance had a lot to do with that, am I correct? I mean,
Yes, ma'am, and also their retirement.
Right, that's a big deal.
So that 2% increase was quote unquote untouchable because it affected their benefits. Actually, 65% of the budget is salary and benefits.
Thank you, Chief. Anyone else have a question for Chief? Anything else, Chief, from your report?
I believe that's going to be it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, a report from our interim fire chief, Terry Romero. We have a email from Terry Romero about his committee meeting report, about his report from committee meeting. And I'll read as follows. Fire calls for the month of April were 33 and an average response time of 3.2 minutes. Fire calls for the month of May were 25 and an average response time of 3 minutes. Terry Romero, interim fire chief, Crowley Fire Department. Also had questions regarding the effect of budget cuts and layoffs within the fire department as it relates to public safety, but those questions obviously will have to be answered at a later date. That's fine. Next, Tony Duhon, city inspector, who also isn't present. We do have an email from him that was sent to the mayor. Since lockdown 4/3/2020, the code enforcement department has issued a total of 60 building permits, of those 5 demo permits. Code violations issued during lockdown, total of 50, period. And
That's his report. And again, we have questions. Mr. Craven.
Did it say anything in there about how many demolitions have been done since we last met? It's been a couple of months now. Nothing. We can't talk, we can't ask him.
There's certain questions I had myself, but we'll have to wait till another meeting to get an update. On the beer and liquor licenses, we have a new request, Outside Kitchen, Cajun Kitchen LLC, represented by Todd J. Leonard's. Address is 518 Southeastern Avenue for a 2020 Class A retail beer permit. I have reviewed the application. The chief and the city inspector have both signed off on it, indicating the criminal background check was completed with a clean record. Chief, did you have anything else to add?
No, it had been so long ago that we did that, I've forgotten that we looked over it, but it was clear.
Great. I visited with Mr. Leonard's last Friday and told him how happy the city as a whole wants to have a new business in town. And with that said, I'd like to make a motion that we approve this request for a Class A retail beer permit to the full council for consideration.
Second.
Second by Mr. Primo. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Prior to adjourning, I'd like to announce a few events and items regarding public safety in the city within the coming weeks. These items are not for discussion by the council. I am just informing the public. Louisiana is in the path of a tropical storm projected to hit our state's coast late Sunday or Monday. Please take precautions. The fire and police departments are prepared. More recently, there are safety concerns nationwide with both peaceful marches and protests associated with the death of George Floyd. I understand a march is being planned to converge in our downtown business district this week. We hope for a peaceful demonstration. I would also like to thank our healthcare workers, firemen, police officers, and our staff for their service to the city during the COVID-19 epidemic. They have put their lives on the line for us. Although the mayor has prohibited all discussion items from this, on our agenda today, I think that these need to be addressed. While I respect the mayor's opinion that he has authority to do so, it should be noted that the town of Iola, the Acadia Parish Police Jury, and over 100 towns across our state have met and not suppressed public discussion. Mayor, we have a voice as well as the public. During the pandemic, the public has expressed much concern about public safety due to budget cuts and layoffs. There are essential matters that should be discussed and acted upon during this meeting. As representatives of the public, it is our duty. For these reasons, I disagree with the mayor's decision to prohibit amending committee agendas, prohibit discussion amongst committee members, and to place restrictions on comments and concerns from the public. This time, the Public Safety Committee rests.
Mr. Chairman, if I might, just one point of clarification. You did mention about this possible march on Friday afternoon in the business district. Those people were part of our meeting at 3 o'clock, so they have canceled that one as well as the one on Saturday to combine all of them to that one on the 13th. So just to make that public knowledge, so especially to all of our business owners downtown.
Thank you for clarifying that, Chief.
Mr. Chair, and also the one that was scheduled for tomorrow, 6 o'clock at the MLK, we will join with one on June 13th. So I want to thank everybody who has made plans to attend. But everything was in conjunction with us coming together and just letting people know that we do care.
Absolutely, and I want to thank those organizations for cooperating, which is reducing the burden on the city as far as expenses and ability to provide the public safety that's needed.
Sure.
Hi, Before the meeting's over, I'd like to request a copy of all of the department heads' letters,
Yes,
because they were read in the meeting.
yes.
I'd like a copy of Brad's letter and a copy of the map that Bob did, just so it's on record. Thank you.
Next.
According to the ordinance, there was supposed to be 3 different marches or rallies in the city of Crowley on different dates. All we did is got together and we're all coming on the same date for the unity of the city of Crowley on June the 13th. At what time?
10 a.m.
At 10 a.m. That's what he was saying, Alderman Martin.
Well, thank you.
Mr. Woolridge, Public Buildings.
Public Buildings Committee convened on Wednesday, the 30th, 2020 at Fort Mill. Everybody was present. On the action items, there was none. Did anybody send any discussion on anything else across the Public Building Committee, sir? Any questions out there, or somebody got a comment on Public Buildings? There being none, we recess.
Thank you, Mr. Woolridge. Mr. O'Fellow, Insurance and Personnel.
Thank you, Mayor. The Insurance and Personnel Committee will open. We have a quorum present. We have no action items or non-action items will be presented at a later date. I would like to end my committee meeting with a quote and a brief statement. Quote by our 26th president: "The most successful politician is he who says what the people are thinking most often in the loudest voice." I do not consider myself a politician. I do not have a loud voice. But I have the voices of my constituents, city employees, Crowley citizens in my head at this time. I want them to know that their voice will be heard. We will discuss personnel and insurance changes in the future. We will discuss issues which are important to our town and our people so that every Crowley citizen can be heard and their questions answered. We will discuss decisions that were unilaterally made without consulting this council, not only during the COVID pandemic, but before. I want to thank my fellow councilmen, the city employees, especially the ones who put their lives on the line each day. Thank y'all.
Community and
I
Economic.
have questions and concerns, as most of you do as well. They will be heard in due time. Thank you for your patience with us. And Insurance and Personnel Committee recess.
Community and Economic Development Committee, Mr. Reddy.
Thank you, Mayor. We do have a quorum present. Everyone is here. Do we have any questions, Mr. Chairman? Okay. And under action items, I have none, and I will recess.
Thank you, Mr. Reddy. Revenue and Finance, Mr. Bell.
Revenue and Finance will convene. We have a quorum. Ms. Jones, were there any questions or comments for the Revenue and Finance Committee?
No, sir.
Thank you. There are no action items at this time. Revenue and Finance Committee, recess.
Crazy.